Don't you think you'll get a little bored living with a drunk?
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 movies so depressing you can only watch them once.
Don't put me in the dark. I was afraid of the dark.
For this list, we're looking at movies that, due to their incredibly difficult and challenging subject matter, are unlikely to inspire repeat viewings. We will only be including feature films on this list, so documentaries will not be considered. Have you soldiered through a second viewing of these films? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20. Come and See.
Он спрашивает, где они? А они пока здесь, на нашей земле.
There are numerous anti-war films out there, but few have the power of Come and See. It speaks to the incredible talent that went into its production and the intolerable visuals and themes that it presents. Even the title itself, Come and See, acts as a dare, boldly inviting curious onlookers to witness the atrocities it displays. The story is told through the eyes of young Fyodor, a Belarusian resistance fighter who experiences Nazi wickedness in occupied Europe. Regarded as one of the finest movies ever made, Come and See is an unending nightmare that deftly mixes stark realism and genuine Holocaust footage with surreal imagery. The latter only makes the Nazi action seem that much more otherworldly and impossible to comprehend.
Это Ян. Ян сказал, без детей выходи. То без детей можно.
Number 19. Beasts of No Nation. Netflix made a name for itself by distributing Beasts of No Nation, a brutal film about a child soldier in a West African civil war. The movie is impeccably acted, with particular praise going towards newcomer Abraham Attah and Idris Elba as the main villain Commandant. The stellar acting helps sell the story, depicting its characters as troubled people in a very troubling situation. The movie is also filled with graphic violence, including shootings, sexual assaults, stompings, and a particular scene involving a machete. Much of this violence involves minors, as they are both perpetrators and victims. It all makes for a very startling and unfortunately realistic viewing experience.
I want him to be knowing how to be leading.
I am happy to be following you, sir.
That is good.
Number 18. Cries and Whispers. You've undoubtedly heard of Swedish director Ingmar Bergman, and that's thanks to his 1972 masterpiece Cries and Whispers. This is the movie that finally earned Bergman popularity and acclaim, not to mention a nomination for Best Picture. The harrowing film is about three sisters, Agnes, Maria, and Karin, and their servant Anna. They all grapple with the impending death of Agnes, and the film serves as a raw glimpse into human suffering, the nature of grief, and the meaning of death. These themes are exceptionally challenging yet profoundly moving, offering one of the most realistic depictions of sorrow ever put to film. Number 17. Manchester by the Sea.
What happened to him?
Just a cardiac arrest. You know, his heart's very weak at this point. He just gave out.
Casey Affleck was long stuck in the shadow of his older brother. He broke free in a big way with Manchester by the Sea, proving with an Oscar that he could stand alone as a brilliant actor. He plays Lee Chandler, a depressed janitor who becomes the guardian of his deceased brother's son. Like Cries and Whispers, this film is all about the process of grief. Lee is a very troubled man who's forced to battle many difficult subjects, including the accidental deaths of his children and the resulting estrangement from his ex-wife. It explores the human psyche through the lens of tragedy, and as you can imagine, that doesn't exactly make for a great time at the movies.
And then the furnace blew, and they couldn't go back in again. And that's all I remember.
Number 16. Blue Valentine.
I don't know, I feel like men are more romantic than women. When we get married, we marry like one girl, because we're resistant the whole way. Until we meet one girl and we think I'd be an idiot if I didn't marry this girl. She's so great.
Quick, name a breakup movie. Chances are that 5,000 different movies just flash through your mind all at once. So prolific is the genre. Well, Blue Valentine is to breakup movies what Come and See is to anti-war films. It's different. It's special. The story, told non-chronologically, concerns the romantic collapse of Dean Pereira and Cindy Heller. Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams are both exceptional as they embody the initial spark of a relationship, the growing disillusion, and the ultimate painful collapse of a marriage. The non-linear storytelling is also refreshingly unique, and the contrast between love and loss helps speak on the unfortunate realities and complexities of long-term relationships.
You know, it's not just us. We got a little girl we got to think about.
I know. I am thinking about her.
Number 15, Leaving Las Vegas.
What?
You've been drinking all day.
But of course. Speaking of drinks, here is yours. Down that hatch.
People who don't think Nicolas Cage can act need only watch his Oscar-winning turn as Ben Sanderson in Leaving Las Vegas. Ben is a depressed man with alcohol use disorder who decides to drink himself to death in Sin City. The subject matter alone is obviously troubling, and Cage embodies Ben's pain with heart-wrenching accuracy. Making the story even sadder is the fact that it's partly based on the life of novelist John O'Brien, who wrote the book from which the film is adapted. With realistic acting and a beautiful but painful script, Leaving Las Vegas delves into unmanageable misery and doesn't prove nearly as fun as the titular city.
You can never ask me to stop drinking. Do you understand?
Number 14, The Road.
It is cold and growing colder as the world slowly dies. No animals have survived, and all the crops are long gone.
The works of Cormac McCarthy will be read and enjoyed long after we're all gone, including his Pulitzer Prize-winning The Road. Adapted to film in 2009, The Road follows an unnamed father and son as they traverse the ruined landscape of a post-apocalyptic America. The world is bleak and desolate, and its hopeless nature is hauntingly conveyed through the BAFTA-nominated cinematography. The father and son are also forced to contend with other, less favorable characters who go to some extreme lengths for survival, including cannibalism. The story is all about the human condition, in both its best and scariest parts. And those scary parts are truly deplorable, often challenging the resolve of the best.
Do you ever wish you would die?
No. It's foolish to ask for luxuries at times like these.
Number 13, Boys Don't Cry.
Were you like me, like a girl?
Director Kimberly Pierce made a masterpiece with Boys Don't Cry, a biographical film about the late Brandon Teena. Hilary Swank won the Oscar for playing Brandon, a transgender man who fatally succumbs to prejudice and transphobia in 90s Nebraska. Swank is simply magnificent in the role, embodying all the pain, rejection, and feelings of alienation that the real Brandon Teena undoubtedly felt. Going beyond the surface story, Boys Don't Cry offers a pessimistic view of human nature, showing that dismissal and exclusion are so inherent in some people that they are willing to kill for them. It's a thoroughly depressing thesis that ends a thoroughly depressing film.
I'll be making a trip out on the highway before too long. I'll be waiting for you. Love always and forever. Brandon.
Number 12, Melancholia.
The earth is evil. We don't need to grieve for it. What? Nobody will miss it.
The movie is called Melancholia. Not only that, it's part of director Lars von Trier's so-called Depression trilogy. So, it's pretty sad. Like most of von Trier's work, Melancholia is a very challenging film, both in form and theme. It concerns a rogue planet that is about to collide with Earth, introducing concepts of inevitability and existential dread. This dread is amplified through the lens of protagonist Justine, a severely depressed woman who battles mental illness, dysfunctional relationships, and the certainty of death. Kirsten Dunst is a powerhouse, and her strong emotions are mirrored in the film's moody visual and sound design. Melancholia, despite its high concept, is a grounded movie about alienation, depression, and complete apathy in the face of death.
Oh, man. Close your eyes.
Number 11, The Green Mile.
But oh God, sometimes The Green Mile seems so long.
When you think of Stephen King, you generally think of haunted hotels, rabid dogs, clown alien things, scary stuff. You generally don't think of melancholic reflections on injustice and redemption, but that's what you get with The Green Mile. A 3-hour epic, it details the final days of John Coffey, a kind man with supernatural powers who is falsely accused of a heinous crime. Said crime is very difficult to watch and absorb, as are Coffey's childlike contemplations on death row. Tom Hanks is also fantastic as Paul Edgecombe, a prison guard who grows to respect Coffey's innocence and feels great reluctance when forced to execute him. When that switch is flipped, we are crying just as hard as the guards.
Electricity shall now be passed through your body until you are dead, in accordance with state law. May God have mercy on your soul.
Number 10, 12 Years a Slave. With a title like that, you know this is going to be an emotionally charged movie.
What amused me just then was your concern for my well-being in this heat. When, quite frankly, the condition of your laborers.
Condition of my laborers?
It is horrid.
It stars the brilliant Chiwetel Ejiofor as Solomon Northup, the author of the titular memoir published in 1853. Northup was a free black man who was kidnapped in Washington, D.C. and sold into slavery. This story examples Northup's personal experiences and uses them as a lens to explore the greater implications of that period in American history. It's a brutally sad and just brutal film, filled with horrific violence against black individuals. There are sexual assaults, beatings, graphic whippings, clubbings, and hangings, just to name a few. It all makes for a very uncomfortable watch, especially knowing that this was a common occurrence not so long ago.
Satan by half. I will have flesh, and I will have all of it.
Number 9, Sophie's Choice.
Du kannst eins von den Kindern behalten. Das andere muss weg.
Since the movie's release in 1982, the titular choice has been ingrained in popular culture. It's a scene so devastating that even those who haven't seen the film are well aware of what it involves. Upon arriving at Auschwitz, Sophie has to make the terrible choice of which of her 2 children would have a better shot at survival.
Zwingen Sie mich nicht zu wählen. Ich kann nicht wählen.
This revelation alone kills the desire to revisit Sophie's Choice, but that's far from the only difficult scene. Meryl Streep delivers a mesmerizing award-winning performance that only serves to make it more realistic and disturbing. While the movie is required viewing, seeing it once is more than enough.
Oh God, they had courage.
Number 8, $1 Million Baby. Those ignorant of $1 Million Baby's massive plot twist surely found their jaws on the movie theater floor when it hit. The movie begins like a female version of Rocky, as an aspiring boxer named Maggie trains with a grumpy old man named Frankie. However, the movie takes a massive turn midway through when Maggie becomes affected by paralysis of all 4 limbs after breaking her neck. It then spirals into an emotionally exhausting story of family tragedy and the morality of euthanasia.
I can't be like this, Frankie. Not after what I done.
Clint Eastwood is known for his difficult and extremely personal movies, but we believe that $1 Million Baby takes the cake as his most emotionally upsetting. It makes for a very challenging and very depressing viewing experience.
I killed her. Don't say that.
Number 7, The Passion of the Christ.
Regardless
Regardless of your religious beliefs, The Passion of the Christ makes for such a disturbing time at the movies that seeing it once is more than enough. The movie was criticized upon release for its excessive violence, as a large portion of the running time is dedicated to Jesus' torture and impending death. Roger Ebert called the movie the most violent film he had ever seen, while others called it little more than a snuff film. Viewers are likely to remember the horrific violence over the religious themes, leaving little reason to see the movie twice, as its distressing imagery will surely play on repeat in your mind for years to come afterwards.
Yeah, Dad.
Number 6, Grave of the Fireflies.
I hate the shelter.
Well, you'll be sorry if you get blown up by a bomb.
Studio Ghibli movies are often exercises in imagination and wonder, But Grave of the Fireflies is a harrowing and realistic look into Japanese life at the end of World War II. The movie begins with a wallop by having us watch as a young boy starves to death. From there, the film never really lets up, jumping back in time to show how we got there, in excruciating detail. We witness horrible images of realistic violence, and the slow descent into desperation and death of our protagonists, Seita and Setsuko. The movie is often considered one of the greatest anti-war films ever made due to its harrowing depiction of innocent lives caught in the crossfire.
Please, doctor, help her.
Give her medicine. All this child needs is some food.
Number 5. Precious.
Cause you ain't shit. I know the day the doctors put you in my goddamn hand, you wasn't a goddamn thing, and you had that smirk on your face, bitch.
Precious was produced by Oprah Winfrey, so you just knew it was gonna be sad. The film goes to places and explores themes that most Hollywood movies would never dare to visit. Precious is a 16-year-old who is assaulted by her father and becomes pregnant on 2 separate occasions. Her mother uses her and her child, who has Down syndrome, to receive welfare.
I knew he liked me.
Precious later learns that she's contracted HIV from her father. And while the movie ends on an uplifting note, the preceding 2 odd hours makes for an extremely upsetting viewing experience due to the stellar performances and disturbingly realistic look into abuse and poverty.
I ain't never had no boyfriend.
Number 4. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
We're not supposed to be friends, you and me. We're meant to be enemies.
Any movie concerning genocide or the Holocaust makes for difficult viewing, and The Boy in the Striped Pajamas is no exception. The story follows a German boy named Bruno who befriends a Jewish boy in a concentration camp named Shmuel. We're then made to witness some extremely unsettling imagery, including a vicious beating of an old man and the weakened prisoners of the camp, before the movie ends with the deaths of both Bruno and Shmuel in a gas chamber. Stories about the Holocaust are obviously grim, but watching one centered around 2 young boys is almost too much to handle.
They smell even worse when they burn, don't they?
What?
Number 3. Hotel Rwanda.
We must cut the tall trees.
Called the African Schindler's List by some, Hotel Rwanda chronicles the real story of the Rwandan genocide, an event that saw the deaths of up to 1 million people in the spring and summer of 1994.
Don't look, Tessa.
While the story is generally about hope and survival, as Paul Rusesabagina saved 1,268 Rwandans in the genocide, the movie is nevertheless riddled with scenes of extreme violence and hate. While the violence is rarely graphic, the implications are horrendous, and knowing it was based on real events makes viewing even more difficult. Some of its images, like the famous road scene, will stick with you for years.
You will tell no one what you have seen here today.
Number 2. Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream is probably the most consistently depressing movie of all time. The movie is a realistic look at the depravities of substance use disorder, as each character slowly spirals deeper into ruination and regret. Sarah becomes dependent on amphetamines and grows manic, resulting in a dismaying scene of electroshock therapy. Harry's injection sites grow infected, and his arm is amputated. Marion regrettably sells her body for heroin. Aside from the bleak and pessimistic storylines, the movie's imagery is haunting and unforgettable, and the performances are simply heartbreaking. It's not only one of the saddest movies ever, but also one of the scariest.
Please give a juicy welcome to Mrs. Sarah Goldfarb!
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Schindler's List. While Sophie's Choice, Hotel Rwanda, and The Boy in the Striped Pajamas share similar themes with Schindler's List, this is perhaps the most painful of them all, due to the depravity of the on-screen violence. Schindler's List lays it all out and presents viewers with arguably the most disturbing and horrifying account of the Holocaust ever put to film. The acting is also mesmerizing, as we feel every ounce of pain, fear, and disgust experienced by these unfortunate characters. The ending, which features the real Schindler-Juden leaving stones on Schindler's actual grave, will also leave you a blubbering mess. It's an undeniable masterpiece, but we can understand if you never want to watch it again.
Heil Hitler!